Hello, hello, welcome back. My. What an energy cluster. Fuck. Excuse my French that we are all sitting in right now. Um, I usually put my phone on away on focus, and I just got a weird message. Okay. Whew. Here we are. Here we are. That's maybe a little bit of an indicator of where I'm going to go with the energy for this update for you all. There's many things in the fields right now that are available for taking our energy away and our distraction to kind of depreciate our energy and the quality of it, because we're all very, very potent and very, very powerful right now. And so notice the more that you have to go out and engage with the world, the more I'm hearing psyops, but it doesn't have to be that dramatic. But the more distractions there are that are available to kind of take you out of your vibrational alignment and harmony. And sometimes we are in collective periods where giving our energy is a part of what's happening, right? It's what we're being asked to do. We're asked to engage, we're asked to merge, we're asked to mesh, we're asked to work with others. And right now, in this window that we're in, where we have so much intense astrology, these eclipses, we have the 11/11 portal, we're in the cycle of death. We just had Samhain, we just had Hallows Eve, whatever you celebrate. This death cycle, it's all about pulling all your energy back into yourself and focusing on you and being with you right now. But it's very easy as the holidays kind of get into the swing, depending on if you celebrate or not, there's still a collective energy out there that there's so many opportunities to pull us out of our center, to pull us into something else. And in many ways, that's why these holidays exist and why they're perpetuated, is to keep us distracted, to keep us busy. When the seasons, the original holidays, that our ancestors celebrated, was actually in attunement and alignment with the season, the seasonal shift and change, depending on where you are. Some of us are going to be going into winter, we're in fall, and some of us are going to be going into spring and summer. Either way, it's a great, great shift. And those energies will be slightly different depending on where you are. And I do know we have some beautiful Australian members here. So I know we have some people that are moving into that seasonal shift. So I don't want you to feel neglected from this, but any shift and transition is difficult and hard as humans. The human has a hard time with that. Our spiritual higher self is like, I got this, no problem. But our human has a little bit of a tricky time with transitions. And so what is usually asked of us during transitions is stillness. So I want to take a moment to just invite anyone watching this, each and every one of you that's watching this at this time, to cultivate a little bit more stillness in your day-to-day, if you possibly can. Okay. Be with yourself. Turn inward. Take time to just sit. You don't even have to meditate or get into a practice, because us spiritual people are really good at making spiritual practices part of our to-do list. Like, we're really good at that. And then we take the sacredness and the magic out of it, because we're like, okay, I have to meditate. Okay, let me sit down. Okay, let me set my timer. Okay. And we're like still in that kind of monkey brain instead of just being. So take time, depending on where you live, go outside. Actually, no, regardless, go outside. Listen to the birds. If you live in a city, listen to the city noises. If you live in nature, listen to the animal noises or the rustling of leaves. Just take a moment and try to invoke more of those moments and space for those moments as we move through this transition, as we're in this period. And notice the distraction energy. Notice that energy that's available, and you can tap into it as much as you want. You can imbibe with it. You can, give it a seat at your table. It's totally up to you. It's not wrong. It's not, there's no bad or like you did a mess up, right? It's like, no, it is what it is. It's all about what we're available for and what we're available to interact with and engage with at a certain moment. Now, Spirit wanted me to do this energy update. I had no idea what it was going to be. I that's very common for me in how I channel, is sometimes they'll give me an idea or some download that I got when I was in a meditative space, or when I was, a lot of it comes through dreams and in that space for me. And then they'll be like, okay, we need you to go like channel about this. And then quite often I have no idea what it's going to be. And so now that I'm sitting here and I'm starting to open my mouth, I'm getting a understanding of it. And I'm aware that this is a message for all of us at this time, wherever you're at in the world, wherever you're at in your spiritual journey, in your life, what you're calling in, what you're letting go of. It is a big, big transition. Some of us are birthing and kind of moving into a more external creative period, and some of us are moving into a death period, or a more hibernation, sort of still period, an inward journey, if you will. Regardless of where you are experiencing the need to purge and purify and let go of the old. That is what eclipses do for us. I don't need to give a lesson on eclipses, because I'm pretty sure that most of you are well versed and well aware of how they work. But what does need to be acknowledged, what does need to be said, there is a very, very insidious virus, sickness in the spiritual communities and beyond, that I notice a lot of people talking about and raging about, even, that you have to be positive, you have to feel good, you have to, it's that toxic positivity, it's spiritual bypassing on crack. It's a very, very sick, insidious energy, and it plagues a lot of us who identify with the masculine polarity, and it plagues those that are in a masculine polarity within, regardless. So your inner masculine has probably had to do battle with this energy, and or this energy is running you, and it is a virus within you. And I would associate it, if we, I talk a lot about Steiner and his work and how he has kind of conceptualized all this. I feel like it's a great meter, a great structure for us to work with. And he talks about this energy as the harmonic energy. Okay, there's the Luciferian energy and there's the harmonic energy. The harmonic energy is very, very distorted masculine. It likes control, it likes order. It's what you see in a lot of dogma, any dogma out there, any dogma, even if the dogma is feelings are bad, you must be happy, you must be positive. I mean, I've had some of you actually share with me and send me some teachers, some really, really sick individuals who are parading around as spiritual teachers. And they tend to be masculines that hold this vibration, this vibratory sort of energy, which is, the heart leads you astray, that the heart is wrong, that, desire and all of these things are like really bad, and you just have to smash them, and you just have to like control them. And the thing is when we move through periods like this eclipse, when we move through transitions, when we move through change, the constant is we are not in control. That is the one thing that we are confronted with, that we are shown time and time again. And the illusion of control is a God complex. It can lead down paths of narcissism. It can lead down paths of abuse, of power. It can lead down really toxic paths. And I see many spiritual teachers, and I'm really calling out men here, to be honest with you, if I'm going to be really honest, really teaching wrong. And yes, there is right and wrong, because it all has to come down to the heart. That is your meter. That is your gauge. That is how you transmute. You must allow yourself to feel fully, not cut it off. And through feeling what comes up, it transmutes, it shifts, it changes, it purifies. That is transmutation. That is alchemy. That is led into gold. That is what a spiritual journey is. That is what we are all being asked to do. That is the wisdom. That is our divinity. That is one of our greatest gifts. And I see people neglecting that. And what actually happens is they degrade. They try to skip past that. They use science and biohacking and all these other things. And that evolutionary track We already know where that ends. We already know where that goes. Really incredible mystics like Gigi Young, you should check her out, is doing a whole series on where that goes and the evolution of that sort of distorted Mars energy, where it leads us. And we see it in the culture hugely. There's also, I'm thinking of this heart energy and how powerful this is. And if you do study esoterica, if you do study the mystical sciences, mystery schools, they all know how powerful the heart is. It's like a secret. It's the secret. But to keep us in confusion and to keep us entrapped and to keep us stuck and a little bit blocked, we are taught to shut down the heart, to block the heart. And we're really weak, honestly, without it. We're not as powerful. Our minds are very, very weak. They're strong. Let me rephrase that. Our minds can override and overpower our body at any moment. The mind is always going to be stronger, but the mind is very susceptible and weak when it comes to ideas, when it comes to information. It's why we can't rely on our minds. We can't, it's like a friend that you can't really trust. They may say they'll show up, but they may not. And you can count on that. You can count on the unpredictability of it, the changeability, the mutability. And I believe we're in Mars retrograde in Gemini, which is, it's kind of an androgynous sign. It's technically a masculine sign, but I've heard some astrologers speak of it as an androgynous energy. And that makes a lot of sense to me because it's so mutable. And there's a beautiful quality to that because you can take in a lot of information, you can evaluate it, you can process it, and you're not sturdy, you're not you're not in that harmonic, very dogmatic, this is right, this is wrong, bad, good, death, condemn, you're not in that energy. So you can take in a lot and you can process and you can learn, and that's beautiful. But you also can be swayed. It's like you're in a tiny little boat out in a storm and you don't have any protection and you're just swayed. 1 minute you're this way, the next minute you're that way. So we have to be combining all of this. And the heart, and for many, you can call it your intuition. In human design, you might think of it as your authority. But in, old esoterica, it was the heart that they knew was our true gauge, our true meter, our true ability to read energy, to be authentic, to be true. And one of the things that happens in this density that we live in is we fear that if we allow ourselves to really feel something, we won't be able to get out of it. We fear that it will be permanent, and we fear that it will take us over. And sadly, the reason I think this doctrine, this virus affects masculines more than feminines, and why they tend to fall into this energy, or why this is part of their lesson here in the human form, to learn about this energy, to battle within themselves over it, to defeat it so that they can see it and discern it in others. Because until you confront it within you, you won't understand it in others. And that's part of what we see too. But the reason that it affects them, and kind of, I think there's a word I'm looking for here, but y'all will probably know. Anywho, is because they are taught from day one, pretty much. I mean, I've seen mothers do this to their sweet little boys, to neglect their heart. They're taught that it is not safe, and they're taught to build walls and protections around their heart. And if they're lucky, they'll meet a person that will open their heart, that will, help them feel again. And then they can just rely on that person to be their heart for them. So it's like, I see a lot of masculines where they use the feminine outside, the external feminine, and they use her to be able to feel, to be able to see, to be able to understand, to be able to know. Also, there's a resentment within it as well. So they reject her. They don't want to fully show up for her. They don't want to fully support her. Because there's a bit of a resentment, and I don't even think they know where the resentment comes from. But the resentment is they're using an external feminine and neglecting their inner feminine. So there's still this war with their inner feminine. They haven't embraced her. They haven't reclaimed her. They haven't welcomed her. They haven't opened their heart fully. And so there's this resentment because they feel powerless. They feel like they don't actually have a voice or a strength. And so that's why you see external strength and might is right. And you see that having to be, acted out, right? Men who cheat, right? The strip clubs, I mean, I could go on and on about the things within our culture that's been created out of this need for rebellion. Most men have this desire to be alone and to like go out into. I'm a little bit inspired by a show I just binged, which is called Alone, if any of you have seen it on Netflix. And the premise is basically like they go out into the wilderness and they're given almost nothing. And they just have to eat, they have to survive. And it's like whoever can last out the longest wins. And so many of the men on that show that I was watching, they think they're going out there and they're stoked and they have this ego about them, and it's not bad. It's just they have this desire to kind of prove it to themselves. And what they discover is they thought they wanted to be alone, and all they want is actually to have real, genuine connection. And some of them miss their families, miss their partners, miss their children so much, and they didn't realize how they were taking it for granted. And many of them actually had this a realization of how much they relied on the feminine energy in their life to help their mental acuteness, to stay direct, to stay clear, to stay emotionally sound. And what we're being taught during this period that we're in as humans is we have to regulate ourselves. We have to have that strong feminine foundation. We have to have that strong masculine foundation. And if we're seeking it externally, we're setting ourselves up for attack. We're making ourselves very vulnerable. And when we don't have the heart working for us, we are not able to discern what's true and what's not. We're not able to discern if something is good for us or what's not. And very often we reject what is good for us because we kind of have that the devil complex, which is a little bit like the devil is the yes man, right? The devil's the one that's like, oh, you're good, you're beautiful, oh, you can do no wrong, right? Pumps up your ego. Whereas the angel energy, the heart energy, soothes your soul, but calls you forward, right? Expects, I don't want to use the word expects, but doesn't allow you to play small, right? And so if there's anywhere you're doing that, we typically are confronted by that in a presence, whether it's a teacher, a family member, a loved one, somebody in our life. Like we all get confronted at times with people that call us forward. And when that ego is really strong and the heart's shut down, we run. We don't like it. We reject it. We really don't like being told that we may be missing something or we're not seeing it completely, or that, especially that we might be failing in a way or not living up to our expectations, or, that someone sees something that we don't. We really don't like that. And that is that masculine sort of distortion. And I think the reason this is all coming to the forefront in this message here is I feel this energy of a masculine rising. We went through a divine feminine rising. It was beautiful, really beautiful to witness. A lot happened with it, right? There was like the false feminine rising that seemed like, I don't know, something about it was off. And we knew it was off because as soon as it got underway, it started to attack the masculine. And it's like, clearly you're not divine if you're attacking the masculine and you're just setting up right, wrong, good, bad. There's that harmonic influence. But then we saw the real one, right? We saw genuine like love and feminines finding their voice and activating their throat and using the power of the intuition and the heart to make massive, massive amounts of change in the world. And now I see this necessary absence of the masculine collective, the divine masculine collective, to step forward and to really shut up, silence these distorted, infected, dogmatic, harmonic, Luciferian leaders and teachers that these divine masculines who have been in their hibernation and their hermit and they're growing and evolving and changing maybe followed prior to their awakening, maybe thought, oh, that guy's cool, maybe looked up to him. Or maybe they always didn't like it and something, they were like, oh, I don't like that guy, but they didn't know why. And something about that guy or that teaching rubbed them the wrong way. And it was because, whenever we're meant to do something, we'll be triggered by people that are doing it already. Right. So we'll kind of feel like a sense of like, oh, they annoy me and I don't know why, before I had started my spiritual business and coaching, I know I would get so annoyed by coaches, especially ones that we're inauthentic. And I was like, oh God, I could be so much more authentic in doing this work. But it was to inspire me to like move. So that's what we do. And so I feel this need, I feel this absence. And it's like there's a very powerful void space that we're kind of in, and it's appropriate for those of us that are kind of in the fall death season, because we can feel the void. You know, they say the veil is thin, so you can kind of feel everything that's percolating on the surface. And if you stay focused, right, if you use that masculine energy within you to stay focused on the mission, that purpose, that mission, because that's the beautiful thing about masculine energy. It's so service-based. It's the giving energy. The masculines are the givers, right? Feminines are receivers. Masculine is the giver. So they give, they serve. It's my masculine energy that shows up here. Because trust me, my feminine wants to be like frolicking around in a field in a like long flowy dress. That's what I'd rather be doing. No, not really. My feminine would, but the masculine within us is the one that calls us forward. It asks us to show up. It gives us that focus. And I feel this happening in the collective, because there's, you know, people who have a very blocked, closed heart. I can't reach them. The only people that are going to resonate with me are people with open hearts, right? To be able to discern. And it's why we stay small. I mean, we've talked about it in our Patreon so often. We're doing real work here. We're doing real dark transmutation sort of work. And we're leading with the heart. And many people they miss that energy. It's almost like it's invisible to them, and or it's like a frequency that they can't quite hear. So it's like, I'm speaking gibberish, right? They're like, I don't know what she's talking about. Because it's a heart resonance. It's a heart frequency that's put out. And so when that's not open, you won't be able to discern, you won't be attracted to it, and it'll feel useless to you. Or you might get really triggered by it and offended by it. And that's actually probably better, because that means your soul's trying to call you forward. It's your soul, you're getting triggered so that you can up level, so that you can grow and evolve there. But I can't reach in the way that a divine masculine energy can reach, right? And it's not just my gender. It's by design. We need each other. There's a harmony, there's a balance, there's a beautiful, like the yin yang, like we need each other. It's the complete. And the feminines have been trying to do the work of the masculines for quite some time now, right? We've been working hard. We've been doing the work. We've been showing up to the page. And while we have made differences and made changes, and I believe we've deeply affected many who identify with the feminine polarity. So that is men, but that's men who are more in the feminine polarity. I see that I can fall on, like, my message, as well as many other feminines like me, our messages can fall on deaf ears when that heart space is a little bit closed. And maybe if they're, you know, I'm a woman, so they're like, oh, it's easier for her. And I get that. There is this experiential thing of being raised in this world as a woman or as a girl or as a boy, and the challenges that come with that, and that men are asked to shut down their heart. And it's like, we teach best on what we've experienced. So I haven't experienced that. But the masculines have, the Divine Masculine Collective sure has. They can reach these masculines in a way that we can't, which is why I feel this baton almost being handed over in a way at this time. As we're in this void space, moving into this transition, it feels like the energy is kind of going like this. And the only reason I feel that is because the masculines have gotten strong. They're ready. Like, they're ready to go on the battlefields, because man, they're going to be battling Armon, like, quite literally. That is what they're up against. It's not humans. It's not humans, right? It's Armon. It's the impulse within them. It's the implant, right? It's the sickness. It's a disease. And so when these people, you know, and I've even seen an attack of the feminine. Some of these leaders I'm talking about, these spiritual people, and just like shaming and putting down like what the divine feminine rising did, and how they're just stupid and idiots, and you can't manifest your world that way. And because it's all about control. It's all about playing God with that sickness. It's all about control. And you learn on a spiritual journey pretty freaking quickly, and you have to learn it over and over and over and over again, that the longer that you try to hold on to the semblance of control, the harder and rougher it gets. And that's very hard for masculine energy. Very, very hard. And I believe it's only hard because we're not taught it. You know, as parents, we don't teach our boys that very well. We don't teach our girls that very well either, but there's a natural inclination. There's a natural sort of energy within feminine as receiver to fall into that a little bit easier. And someone like me, who's very masculine, I have a lot of masculine energy, both in my astrology and my just, I think being a twin, you just kind of have androgynous energy. So this has been hard for me too, right? It was a hard lesson for me most of my life, right? My especially childhood and young adulthood. And so I understand it, but I don't understand it to the extent that these divine masculines do, because it's their mission. It's their gift. It's their service. It's what they're here to teach. It's what they're here to do. And we can only take it so far. And there's also something about feminine energy that is not meant to be in the warriorship battle mode, right? Specifically, like I just mentioned, my own specific chart. So depending on your chart, you could have more of that like warrior energy within you, even if you're a divine feminine or a female. But our energy is not always best used that way. It's not best used that way. Whereas masculine energy, it's a great motivator, actually, that energy. It's a great motivator for true masculine energy. So there's this baton being passed. And the beautiful thing that I see this divine masculine collective ascending to and being able to teach the rest of the collective is that it's safe to feel. It's safe to feel. And in fact, it's through feeling. It's through honoring and trusting that feeling and allowing it that makes you the strongest warrior of all. That's the most bravery. That requires the most amount of courage to show up and face your life, no matter what's happening, and to feel it, to walk it as depth of feeling. And I've said this for quite some time. I mean, I spent a lot of time with kids nannying when I was younger. And so I spent a lot of time with little boys and little girls. And men, boys, I don't want to say they feel deeper, but there's a sensitivity to their feeling that is unmatched. And I think that's part of the fear. There's almost this feeling that my emotions are so big and they're like a waterfall that if I let it out, I won't be able to stop it. That's kind of like the underbelly of the fear. Like, if I can't control this, there's that control word again. If I can't control this, like, is it going to hurt somebody? And that's what we're taught. That's what society teaches, is that the masculine is just this big ogre who walks around hurting people. And it's like, that's not giving the masculines any credit at all of their intelligence, of their mind, of their focus, of their control, of their integrity, of their heart. And that may be the case when they do have one of these viruses, like the harmonic virus, and when their heart is closed. Yeah, they may inadvertently hurt people, and they may walk around being a big ogre and being clumsy with their words and messing up. But when your heart is open and you're lit, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to fear that, because it's balanced, it's alchemized. You've transmuted it, and the only way you've transmuted it is by facing your inner darkness and your inner shadow and feeling. And we need to be an example for men in the world, boys in the world, that it is safe to feel, that is safe to feel. And it's through that you transmute and you heal, right? It's through the neglect and the like compartmentalization and the hiding it away and sanctioning it off and tucking it over here, that we create lives that are not ours, where one day you wake up and you do have that midlife crisis and you look around, this isn't my beautiful house, this isn't my beautiful wife, whatever that song is, you know, and you look around, you're like, what is this? Yeah, you can manifest that way. You can absolutely manifest with like an harmonic virus, right? It's just tricking the laws of the universe, tricking the laws of nature. You can absolutely manipulate and trick, but it always catches up with you. It always does. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. If you look at like the Great Awakening and on the collective scale of what's happening with a lot of these individuals who have been hiding and running for a long time, many, many lives. They've been trying to outsmart God, right? And God always has the last laugh, let me tell you. And that's kind of what we're seeing. You don't want to be like that. You don't want to end up like that. Because ultimately, you always have to go back to source. You'll always go back to source. And what we're seeing is like kicking and tantruming little children being like, I don't want to go back to source. I don't want to start over. I want to keep my toys. I worked hard for these toys. The knowledge that they perceive to have, right? But when you value knowledge, when you value Maya over heart, that's what happens. That's what happens to you. And we also know the value of the mind, right? We know the value of Maya. We understand it. It's beautiful. What a gift. What a tool. And so many of us have these beautiful missions connected to sharing it. I mean, I'm all about information. In my human design, I'm the arrows at the top of the chart, I'm all masculine. There's another factor is I'm all left facing arrows. So I'm here to process information. I'm here to use my mind very powerfully. That's what I'm doing, right? But it's balanced by my heart. That's how I discern. That's how I know what's true and what's not. And I give myself permission to fully feel. And that's more often than not what I'm teaching and what I'm serving in like quantum healing sessions with me, in quantum coaching sessions. That's what we're doing. We're rewiring and remembering and going back to source and remembering how you're supposed to heal. Because I promise you, if you're in pain right now, if you're in discomfort, if this eclipse has been hard, if this period has been hard for you, there's an imbalance. And it's because the mind is secretly running the show or trying to be in control, and the heart is shut down. And one of the downloads that I have gotten recently in terms of the masculine collective, when we're talking about the twin flame collective, the divine masculines, many of them actually, everything was always pure perfection. Like the journey was always so planned out. So even when it looked like they were like a hot mess over here, doing something over here, it was always divine. And same thing for you, feminine, by the way. Like, I see you. I saw your early 20s, girl. Okay, you were a hot mess too. So like whatever you were doing over there and whatever, it was always divine. It was always you learning and acquiring the lessons. And there was a period where you actually had to be shut down. You couldn't have the sight to feminine. You couldn't see what was coming, because if you did, you wouldn't have gone through what you needed to. And the masculine, this is the download, I'm getting to it. They needed to have safety blocks around their heart because of the places that they were being guided and led into, the relationships, the people, the scenarios, the experiences that they had to go to. If their heart had been open, they would have been a lot more susceptible to things like fragmentation, where the soul gets fragmented and broken apart, gets siphoned, gets trapped. There's a multidimensionality here, but if you think of it on the 3D level only, this is like psychosis. This is like, severe disorders, multiple personalities. Like it's all these things because of the trauma that they've experienced and endured. And the divine, the foolproof plan, we have to protect this at all costs. And so we've been in this period, this whole like separation, this whole learning, this whole ascension journey, 2020, it was like the fire got lit under all of our asses. It was like, okay, it's go time, baby. This has all been us remembering and reclaiming our heart and reminding ourselves, oh, that's who I am. And also with that shift in 2020, even though I know the world felt very dark and scary, it was like the light had won. It had been out of balance. It had been dark. It had been unsafe. Very clearly, it had been unsafe. And I've shared this download before, but I'll share it here again. It was like all we had to do up to that point was stay alive. That was our only goal. Just stay alive. Go into the experiences fully, learn the lessons, do what you got to do, just stay alive. And now that you're alive, okay, now the mission starts. Now the work begins because you made it and it's safe now. The light has won. There were hijacks and tricks and black magic on this planet really strongly, really strongly for a very long time. And all of that has been reversed. I'm not saying that we're living in like a peachy keen planet and everything's hunky dory. No, we're in the like chaos cleanup phase, right? We're still, we buckle up, right? But that really dark magic that was allowed for our growth and evolution, enough of the light workers, enough of the starseeds woke up, saw the truth, and overpowered that and reversed it. And that's what you do in dream time all the time. That's what we're doing in the astral. That's what we were doing, right? So all that has been reversed. So it's actually safe to feel now. And now these masculines who had these walls around their heart, it's like they have the training wheels are coming off. And it's like, oh shit, do I really know how to ride this bike? Oh my God, do I really know how to do this? And not to mention the energy of like pedestaling their feminine at times where they're like, well, she's so good at this. Like he or she is so good at this. Like, how could I even measure? How could I even be in a conversation with this person? Like, she's like a word wizard. She's like an emotional wizard. She's going to like, put a spell on me or whatever. I don't know. Because words are spells, to be fair. But there was this like unnecessary, but necessary to the process, to the divine perfect plan, process of going through that pedestaling and going through that reclaiming how powerful you are, divine masculines, how powerful your heart is. But it was like, it hadn't been safe. It hadn't been safe. And you had to just live in the mind. Your whole life was living in the mind, making decisions through the mind. And we saw where that got you, right? And the thing was, for many masculines who did partake in spirituality and maybe were learning from some of those fuckwits that I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, but whatever, they had gotten a lot of misinformation around what their intuition feels like, what it is, the heart, all of that, just bad information. So they thought that their mind was their intuition. They thought that their logic, they thought that the programming, they thought that the black magic, they thought that the things that they had been taught about keeping themselves safe was their intuition. And so it was a real, I've been cursing a lot. I hope YouTube, this is going to be on YouTube. So, but a real mindfuck for them to kind of be like, oh my God, everything was an inversion. What was up was actually down, right? That's a huge kind of like, whoa, reverberation. So there's been a lot of that acclimating and remembering. It's all a remembering process and reclaiming. And the masculines tend to do it alone. They don't get much support or help. I've had beautiful sessions with divine masculines, and those are few and far between, but it's always like, it always like knocks my socks off when I get into a session with a divine masculine, because I'm like, just you showing up here and getting here is huge, right? Because there's a pride, there's an ego, I want to stay in the shadows while I do this. I want to figure it out. I want to become good at this before I out myself out of the spiritual closet, if you will, or whatnot. And I think some of that is probably divine, that the divine wants them to work. And it is about trusting themselves and learning to trust themselves and not rely on someone else. But there's also this period where I think it can be very hard to go it alone. It can be very, very hard to go it alone if you're going through this whole experience and feeling like you're crazy. Are you making this up? What's going on? And then to not have anyone be able to confirm it for you, that can be really challenging. But they're coming out of the woods. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this energy. It's percolating. And I've seen it echoed in other channels, like different people, not even in twin flame circles, but just people I respect that are mystics. And so I'm like, okay, there's a big confirmation that this is a collective energy that we're starting to pick up on. So meaning the timeline is already here. It's like this is our most probable timeline that we're on right now, is that ascension for the masculine collective, and getting really public, which is going to make them very uncomfortable. Masculines are very uncomfortable. They like very rarely comment, even unless they have the Armon virus. Then they're commenting like I keep wanting to use that F word today, but I'll refrain. I think I've used it one too many times. But yeah, they're like all up in those comment sections when that Armon virus is present, because it's all about I'm right, you're wrong, shaming. And also, if someone has a different idea outside of myself, then I have to control that. I have to rein that in. The Armon virus is why we war, why we go to war, and it's all under the guise of righteousness. It's very tricky. That Armon one is a very slippery slope. I think I've touched a lot more in my teachings on the Luciferian impulse, because I think it pertains to so many of us that are here watching these types of videos, watching tarot readings. We're more susceptible to that energy and communing with false light teachers and false light spirits. But the Armon virus keeps you from attuning to any spirit, keeps you from your intuition completely, just like cuts you off from the higher chakras, right? So you're just down in the density of the lower chakras and in the carnal desire and the conquest and the control and being drawn to things that, will make me look good. It's all about the pride and the ego. It's all about serving the ego. And it's a sneaky little slippery bugger, because you don't quite know when you're in it, and I think that's one of the beautiful things that these masculines have to teach and have to say after they've been, battling within themselves with this virus for so long. So I've also said virus a lot, so that might like flag this video too, which is funny. I'll have like a Wikipedia page below me, like anyways, trying to think if there's anything else you want me to touch on or say. The big themes I'd like to be taken away from this are: feel your feelings. Feel your feelings, okay? It's safe to feel. It will not kill you. It will not kill you. It'll make you so much stronger. And as you process it, as you move through it, you become that alchemist. And it's your most powerful, powerful chakra, or muscle even. This is perfect timing because my microphone is dying. Love that. So feel them, feel it all, feel it all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm supported 100% by you. So the more likes, the more subscribes, comments, the more people get to see this content, and it gets passed around for people that divinely need it. So I really, really appreciate it. The algorithms on YouTube keep channels like this really blocked. So the more support, the better. If you are interested in high vibe content like this, there's a Patreon community. The link is down below. And I'm actually going to do an extended to this. I just got the inspiration. I'm going to dive into what's going on in the twin flame connection and get really, really literal. Literal? I don't know. My mic's going to die. I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you so much for being here. Lots of love.